We were a nation crippled, paralyzed economically. And here we get a man who is himself paralyzed. And there's a meshing there that's almost magical.
He skipped his inaugural ball to get down to work. In his first act, Roosevelt closed every bank in the country, allowing time to restore confidence in America's financial system. Roosevelt reported directly to the American people. His famous fireside chats reached millions.
You people must have faith. You must not be stampeded by rumors or guesses. Let us unite in banishing fear. Together, we cannot fail.
In his first 100 days in office, a dizzying array of legislation was passed. Roosevelt called his program the New Deal. New Deal agencies were known by their alphabet abbreviations: WPA, CCC, TVA, and NRA. They would change the fabric of American life, putting people to work and reforming the rules of business. With renewed hope, Americans everywhere rallied behind the Blue Eagle, symbol of the National Recovery Act. Many found another reason to celebrate: the end of Prohibition. Old Man beer was back. After chasing away the cobwebs the following morning, millions of Americans were going to work for the government. The TVA brought cheap electricity to millions of homes. Thousands left the city to do conservation work for the CCC. The need for soil conservation was never clearer than on the Great Plains. Exhausted by the plow, parched by drought, fertile lands became the Dust Bowl. Thousands abandoned their homes and wandered west. John Steinbeck wrote, "They came from a place of sadness. They were not farm men anymore, but migrant men." The New Deal enjoyed wide public support, and Roosevelt campaigned for re-election.
Come on and row, row, row with Roosevelt on the good ship USA.
To some generations, much is given. Of other generations, much is expected. This generation of Americans has a rendezvous with destiny.
The people responded, giving Roosevelt the most sweeping political victory in American history.
I don't think it's possible to talk about the presidency of Franklin Roosevelt without bringing Eleanor into the picture. She surely was one of the great first ladies in American history.
First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt was constantly on the move. Traveling across the country, she was called the president's legs, his eyes and ears. She became a powerful advocate for the poor and the disadvantaged. Some called her the conscience of the administration, an invaluable asset to her husband's presidency.
But let me say about the presidency, it has long been a two-person job. And the women have been written out of the history books, or put it the other way, they haven't yet been written in.
The fear of national disaster had passed. The Depression was not over, but other news was grabbing the headlines.
The National Broadcasting Company presents a special bulletin from the Press Radio News.
The kidnapping and murder of Charles Lindbergh's baby was the crime of the century.
Trenton, New Jersey. Bruno Richard Hauptmann was electrocuted at 8:47 tonight for the murder of the Lindbergh baby.
Increasingly, Americans could get their news and be entertained without leaving their living rooms.
Now, wait a minute, Fred. If you'll just take your nose, that one you used to talk through, out of that microphone, you'll see that it's me. Oh, Jack! Jack Benny!
It was the golden age of radio. And a night on the town offered many choices. Even those in cafe society let their hair down, if only a little. While Americans concentrated on the home front, the news from overseas was troubling. The world was heading toward war. In 1939, Americans enjoyed one last summer before the long, uncertain winter. In New York, millions flocked to a World's Fair that expressed the hopes of the 30s. It was called the World of Tomorrow. President Roosevelt said, "Each age is a dream that is dying for one that is coming to birth." Europe was now at war. As Hitler's forces swept through Europe, Roosevelt offered the support of America's industrial might to the fight against fascism.
We have the men, the skill, the wealth, and above all, the will. We must be the great arsenal of democracy.
At the Atlantic Conference, he showed his solidarity with Winston Churchill and Great Britain. Then, Pearl Harbor.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
America was at war. The war effort united the nation and finished what the New Deal had started. The Depression ended. There was full employment. The mold of a woman's role in society was smashed. Millions of women entered the workplace for the first time. The new model was Rosie the Riveter. But for Japanese Americans, the war meant degradation, as more than 100,000 were placed in concentration camps. World War II killed more people, destroyed more property, and created greater political changes than any other war. Fighting never reached the American mainland, but 400,000 Americans lost their lives in Europe, the Pacific, Africa. By the time of the Yalta Conference in February 1945, the war was nearing an end. A new world order, dominated by the United States and the Soviet Union, was emerging. Roosevelt appeared tired, frail. 2 months later, he died at Warm Springs, Georgia, just weeks before Germany's surrender. Roosevelt biographer James McGregor Burns.
Roosevelt came through on the two big jobs he had to do as President of the United States, to cope with the Depression and then to reorient his whole administration toward a very different menace from abroad. I think he will rate as one of the top 3 presidents in all our history, and probably as the greatest president in the 20th century. He reached into people's minds and hearts as no president had done since Abraham Lincoln. And so when he was gone, there was a tremendous feeling of emptiness in people's hearts and in their minds too.
Roosevelt went on to win a tremendous victory over the Republican candidate, Alfred Landon. Smith and Conklin were